Hello, welcome to Revive and Rise. I'm your host, Melody Parrish, and I want to thank you so much for choosing to spend time with us today. And I want to continue our conversation about immigration and the us and them beliefs and ideas. But I do want to also express that this tactic in this strategy, if you want to call it that, is not solely for immigration, though we are seeing a huge spike in this idea being used towards immigration. But it is and has been used for hundreds and thousands of years against people that are different. Maybe they have a different skin color. Maybe they have different cultural beliefs. Maybe they have different religions, different practices. Maybe they choose to love people of different sexual orientation than they are. And the transgender population greatly experiences this. And that is a huge, huge uptick in disbelief for us and them of the transgender population. And I want to talk too about the trauma this can cause and about the empathy that the people that I just spoke of, the empathy and the love and the kindness that these individuals have expressed and that I see every day, and that everyone in this country should see every day and could see every day if they chose to. So I want to touch on these things, and I want to talk about it. And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole and get caught up in things. I'm going to try as much as possible to stick to these ideas that I have, and I want to express. And whatever I don't get to in this episode, I'll try and get to in the next episode. But I also want to talk about two experiences that I personally have had. I could talk about many stories that I've heard, and I will get to those things. The first one was when I was in high school, when I was a senior in high school. Because if you listen to my story, from junior high school to the first 3 years of high school, I was not able to go to a physical school. I was homeschooled by my father because of a physical condition. But I was able to go my senior year of high school, and a friend of mine needed a ride to school. And so, I picked him up that morning, and we were driving on the way to school. We were on a road that was out of the main city. It was in between cities. So it was a highway, a small town rural area highway. So there were no stop signs. There were no stoplights. And we're just talking about school and what's going to happen that day and what we need to do and upcoming events and all the things that, friends talk about. And a siren goes off behind me, a police siren. And I pull over, I look around to see, maybe they're going to somewhere else and I need to pull over and let them by. But there's nobody else on the road, really. Just a few cars in the other lane, on the other side, I should say, of the road. And so I pull over and I look at my friend who is an African American male. And his face is frozen. His hands have balled up into fists and he cannot move. He grips the door handle very tightly and he sits straight up. And I looked at that and I remember that face in that moment vividly and the fear that was in his beautiful eyes. And the officer approached the window and he just said, "Is everything okay here?" And I said, yeah, everything's fine. We're on our way to school. And he asked me, he said, "Well, I just wanted to make sure. So you're going to school and this gentleman is," and I said, "He is a friend and we're going to school together." And then, I said, "Why am I being stopped? What was I speeding?" And he had the audacity to say, no, ma'am, you ran that stoplight and I just wanted to tell you, I'll give you a warning this time. And I looked at him and I'm thinking, there's no stoplights, no stop signs. I would have had to run that 5-10 miles back. But anyway, he got back in to his car and drove off. And, I started the car again and I started talking to my friend and I'm like, that was so strange. And he just looked at me and he goes, "Mel, that happens all the time. That happens all the time." And I've heard stories about from my friends who have sons about, when they get a certain age and are going to get their license, how they have to tell them, if a policeman stops you, this is where you put your hands. You put your hands where they can see them and you do not move. And just hearing things like that is very disturbing. Like, I can't fully grasp, what it feels like and the trauma that causes. I saw it on my friend's face and I cannot imagine what he went through. I can't imagine what my friends go through having to tell their sons, their beloved sons, these things. And I can't even fathom the worry and the concern that goes on with when their children are out? Are they going to come home? Are they going to come home in one piece? It's very disturbing and unimaginable. The second experience that I've had, if you know my history, you know that I have traumatic brain injury and PTSD. And recently, somebody found out that I had these problems, and it was like a switch. We were fine and talking and laughing and joking one minute, and then they found that out. Their demeanor completely changed. They looked at me different, and I saw it. At the time, it didn't dawn on me that was the reason until we mentioned something, and I said, "Oh yeah, have you heard?" I think it was it was the interview that I did on NPR where I talk about both the traumatic brain injury and the PTSD, and they said, "Oh, I heard it," and gave me a look, and I remember feeling uncomfortable, but I didn't too much pay it attention. And then after that, they said, "You must leave, and you cannot come back. Do not come back on any in my vicinity." And I thought about that. It just seemed it seemed very dramatic, and it seemed full of fear. And I spoke to several individuals that said that was strange, and that this person did not normally act like that. And that they had never seen this kind of reaction. And I thought about it, and then I realized, people with traumatic brain injury, people with PTSD are portrayed by the media and by others to just randomly, have a trigger or something that makes them violent, or in some way just, as for lack of a better word, just flip out, and either shoot someone, stab someone, hit someone, or just go and yell vulgarities, and and I thought about it, and I thought about how that made me feel, to know that somebody thought that about me, simply because of something that I could not control. And then I thought about when I was in Illinois, I had an assignment for Illinois, in which an African American lady who had a diagnosed mental illness was shot by a police officer, because she was just boiling water and talking to him, but he he just shot her. And I just thought about that. And, those kinds of things happen every day. People that are different from we are, people that may not look like us, may not talk like us, may not behave like us. And yet they're traumatized. Maybe they were born in a different country. Maybe they practice a different religion or different cultural customs. And they're traumatized by people in this country of various classes, various races, various status. And it's just heartbreaking. And we see this us and them idea and belief happening greatly with our immigrant population. Oh, it's happening greatly. And to the point where we're just like, get rid of them. They have to go. They can't stay here. They shouldn't be here in the first place. And we're treating them like objects because now it's gotten to the point where it's not even let's return them to the country that they came from, but it's okay, let's just put them somewhere. Let's just drop them off somewhere like they're not even human beings. And that is one of the us and them tactics. You have to dehumanize. Remember, I was speaking about a book that I've just read called The Cold Crematorium, and they talk about how the Jews were just dehumanized in these concentration camps. The author mentions that that he was given a number, the numbers that are tattooed on the arms, and that he was never referred to by his name for years. He was only referred to the number. And that's the thing. It gets in your mind, and then you are just a number. You're not even who you used to be, who you were born to be. You're just a number. You're just a worker. You're just them. Because it's a whole lot easier to harm an object than it is a human being with thoughts and feelings and a soul. And you see that tactic all the time here. And we may not be aware of it, and we may know very well that it's happening. We may believe that these ideas and these beliefs extremely strongly, but we may not even know that they're there. I think about, in the media, especially in TV and movies, if you notice, not so much now, because people are finally starting to get the representation that they have always deserved, that they've always needed. But there is, if you watch movies, if you notice simple things like the cowboy movies, the Western movies, the hero or the good guy or the person that saved the day was in a white cowboy hat. The villain was in a black cowboy hat, dressed in black clothes. And it was to make us believe, or at least start to believe, that black and darkness is associated with evil or badness or negative things. And then you see, like in crime shows, crime movies, anything where people are harmed in some way, people with darker skin are always, or I won't say always, okay, because we can't make generalizations like that, but I would say 95%, if not more, of the time, the villain or the person doing harm have darker skin or come from other places. When you say things, negative things about third world countries or about certain populations, and you say it enough, people start to believe it. And even if you say it once, if you're surrounded by these ideas and these things that are being drilled in your head through words and through images, you start to believe it. And it's so dehumanizing and demoralizing, and it starts to seep into every part of you. And now, if you look at things, look at what it's doing to our country, to our perception. Villains may be people with different skin colors, or people from different nations, or people with different religious beliefs. And if you look at, as far as sexual orientation or gender identity, those are villainized too. And things are pointed out that just don't matter. It's not important. Those kind of things is, for example, like the whole bathroom problem that people are trying to create. That was not a problem when you used a porta-john somewhere. Those are not women or men. They're both. If you use the bathroom on an airplane, that's an all any gender bathroom. So that's not a problem. So I just don't understand the issue. But those are just some ways. And if you're a woman, women are treated so differently than men in the world, down to our words, from our talents and abilities down to even our words. Because if we accuse a man of rape, of assault, of molestation, the lengths that we have to go through to prove that accusation, it's just horrendous. And, you know, most of the time, if it's a room full of women saying, oh yeah, that happened to me as well, that happened to me as well, that happened to me as well, we're questioned. Did it really happen to you, or are you just wanting money? Did it really happen to you, or are you just seeking revenge? Every time, the man's believed. So these kind of incidences, you know, they produce trauma every time. You know, it invents triggers, and triggers start to develop. And these start to develop into ideas and beliefs, even though they're untrue. If you're treated like that enough in those situations, it gets beaten into you, and you yourself begin to believe those things about yourself. And it makes the us and them stronger, which is devastating to our world, to our country, and to our communities. Because no matter what religion you are, what religion you follow, I can guarantee that that religion speaks about love. Love being the most important thing, kindness being the most important thing, caring for people, helping people in need. Each religion has story after story of how and why you need to do these teachings, stories of people who have done these things. There's examples everywhere in every religion of these things. So I want to thank you for tuning in and for listening to me. And we'll continue this conversation in the next episode. But I want to remind you that we're all on a journey, and we do not have to suffer alone. Thank you.